For this week's discussion, I'm going to be moving away from the pirates that I've been looking at and going out west. Um, and we are going to be taking a trip out to the Grand Canyon. We've been out there several times and we're looking forward to going out there. Um, but I'm going to look at the western Apaches. And I have three selections. One's going to look at both the pre-reservation time as opposed to what it's like on their reservations now. Another is a more eastern Apache group, the Mescalero Apaches. And then the third selection is a review of a book that I have ordered and looked at, and it was able to read excerpts of it, but not the whole thing. To start us off, I'm going to be looking at a selection by Sarah Herr, looking at the pre-reservation Apache, and really what it's like for them now. She uses a very quantitative method approach. There's a lot of data in this. She uses a lot of archaeological data, ethnographic reports, and then also Apache tribe members. She's got some firsthand accounts in that. She understands and shares the difficulties of studying the Apache because of their lifestyles. They are a very mobile group, and they made it difficult because they kind of, really a very clean group. In other words, they used a lot of their, they were on the land, they used a lot of the land, but they didn't really leave a footprint, that is. So their history is really in the naming of places, stories, and songs. So it's going to be difficult to see what she has here. She discusses how these warriors and raiders were kind of more of a stereotype of the Apache. That 1650 was their greatest land use, and then that changes considerably in the 1850s. Her uses, like I said, a ton of secondary sources, and she uses quite a bit of primary sources. She discusses the background of the Western Apaches prior to being on reservations, and then discusses some of those reservations, some of the earliest reservations called Plymouth Landing, which we see the Apache were there, from about 1640 to 1700, and what they've been able to find in studying that site compared to some of their later sites in the early 1900s. The next selection is by Henrietta Stockel, and in this she is an author of about 13 books about the Apache. She lives near an Apache reservation, and she seems to be doing a lot of work on Native Americans. She looks at this selection, she's discussing the impact of religion on those Mescalero Apache, the Jesuits, the Franciscans, and even then later and lastly the Roman Catholics. It's a qualitative research here, and she has a lot of good information, and she cites some of her own stuff, but just about the relationship of these Indians with these religious groups that came in trying to essentially evangelize to them. And then the last selection was the book is called Big Sycamore Stands Alone, the Western Apaches, the Arapaho, and the Struggle. And it's by Ian Recker and Greenville Goodwin, who is an anthropologist. And in his book, it basically discusses how land was very important to the Apache, looking at post-events, resistance, a massacre, looks at the politics, the economics, and this was a review by Chip Colwell of the Denver Museum of Natural Science. So hopefully this selections will help me get my start in looking at the Apache, in the Western Apache out west. Have a great day. Bye.